Once upon a time, in a quiet, lush village nestled in the heart of Africa, lived a woman named Zara and her husband, Lamine. They had been married for many years, building a life of simple joys, working hard together, sharing laughter, and dreaming of raising a family. Yet, one wish had remained heartbreakingly elusive. They had no children. Although Zara had become pregnant multiple times, each pregnancy ended too soon. The babies lost before they even had a chance to grow. With each loss, Zara and Lamine grieved deeply, and soon rumors began to spread through the village. Some said Zara must be cursed, while others believed she had somehow invoked the anger of the gods. As the whispers grew louder, even Lamine's family began to doubt her, suggesting that perhaps Lamine should consider marrying someone else, someone who could give him healthy children. But Lamine loved Zara too much to listen to such talk. He held her hand through every loss and assured her that he still had faith. He knew in his heart that they would one day be blessed with a child. After years of waiting in quiet despair, Zara became pregnant again. Her emotions were a mix of hope, excitement, and a great deal of fear. The villagers kept a cautious distance, unwilling to get their hopes up after witnessing Zara's past losses. But this time, something felt different. Zara carried the pregnancy through month after month, and finally, one morning, she gave birth not to one but two beautiful daughters. She named them Ayana and Talia. The news spread like wildfire. The birth of twins was unheard of in the village, and the twin girls quickly became a marvel to everyone. Villagers who had once doubted Zara now came to her home bearing gifts of fruits, flowers, and sweets. The entire village rejoiced, seeing the twins as a sign of good fortune. They believed the girls were a blessing from the river goddess herself, who had finally heard Zara's prayers and granted her wish. As Ayana and Talia grew, they became the very heart of the village. Everywhere they went, laughter and cheer followed. They had a glow about them that made people smile, and their joyful spirits were infectious. The twins had bright, sparkling eyes, quick smiles, and an adventurous curiosity that filled everyone with delight. From one festival to another, they were the pride of the village, showered with love and surrounded by those who adored them. But as time went on, the villagers began to notice something peculiar. Ayana and Talia seemed to have a unique, almost mystical quality. Occasionally things would happen around them that defied explanation. Once Auntie Alima, an elder woman from the village who often helped Zara around the house, took Ayana and Talia to the village market. As the girls wandered among the bustling stalls, they grew curious and innocently took some fruit from Alima's basket. Annoyed, Alima scolded them and slapped their hands lightly just to remind them to ask next time. But Ayana and Talia merely smiled at her and said, "Be careful, Auntie, because whatever you do to us will reflect back on your own daughter when you return." Alima dismissed this as childish nonsense, thinking nothing more of it. But when she returned home, she found her own daughter crying with identical red marks on her hands, exactly where she had slapped Ayana and Talia. Shocked and confused, Alima recounted the incident to other villagers. Some were skeptical, while others looked at Ayana and Talia with a newfound caution. People still adored them, but now a slight edge of mystery and uncertainty surrounded the girls. As Ayana and Talia grew older, strange events like this happened more frequently. One day, the twins accidentally knocked over an old clay pot that belonged to the village elder, Old Kia. Known for her harsh nature and quick temper, Old Kia scolded the girls and demanded they stand under the hot sun, holding heavy stones as punishment. Talia, her spirit unbowed even under the elder's harsh treatment, looked at Old Kia with a determined gaze and said, "From this day forward, you will never be able to enter your own home." Old Kia brushed off the words as idle threats from a child. However, when she returned to her house later that evening, she found that her door seemed to shift away each time she tried to approach it. No matter how far she walked toward her home, the doorway continued to elude her, just a few steps beyond her reach. Exhausted and frightened, old Kia finally gave up and sought out the twins, begging for their forgiveness. This incident left the villagers in awe of Ayana and Talia's mysterious power, and they began to regard the twins with a mixture of admiration and fear. With each year, Ayana and Talia noticed more and more that people around them were growing distant. The villagers who had once adored them now treated them with a sense of caution. Old friends drifted away, young men who might have once wanted to court them kept their distance, and the villagers' whispers grew louder and more uncertain. The twins felt isolated, their hearts heavy with loneliness. All they wanted was to laugh and play like everyone else, to feel accepted. They wished desperately for a life that was simple and free like everyone else in the village. The longing for connection grew so strong that it led them to consider something they'd never dared before, breaking one of their mother's strictest rules. Since they were young, Zara had warned them to never go near the river in the forest. She had never explained why, but her voice always held a note of fear whenever she mentioned it. Desperate for change and curious about the forbidden place, Ayana and Talia decided to venture to the river, hoping that by breaking this one rule, they might finally experience a taste of the freedom they craved. When they arrived at the river, the water sparkled under the sun, inviting them to step closer. Other children were playing along the shore, splashing and laughing, and for the first time in a long while, Ayana and Talia felt like they belonged. At first, the presence of the twins made the other children uneasy, but Ayana and Talia reassured them that they only wanted to play. Gradually, everyone relaxed, and soon the air was filled with laughter. Ayana and Talia joined in, their hearts swelling with joy as they splashed and played in the cool water. But then, something unexpected happened. One of the girls nearby accidentally splashed water onto Ayana, and immediately her skin began to shimmer with scales that glistened like fish. Her smile vanished as she looked at her arms, which were transforming before her very eyes. Fear rippled through the crowd as Ayana's body continued to morph, her legs merging together as she began to transform into a river creature. Talia, desperate to help her sister, reached out and touched the water, but to her horror, the same transformation began to happen to her. She felt her skin tighten and change, turning into silvery scales as her legs fused together. The children around them screamed and fled, running back to the village to tell the adults what had happened. When Zara heard the news, she dropped everything and rushed to the riverbank. What she saw there broke her heart. Her daughters, her beloved twins, were turning into creatures of the river, their faces filled with fear and confusion. Zara knelt at the riverbank, her tears flowing freely as she watched helplessly. The twins looked back at her with pleading eyes, but there was nothing she could do. Desperation clawed at Zara's heart as she realized the truth she had kept hidden for so long had finally caught up with her. As the twins continued to change, the village priest arrived, his face grave. In a soft voice, he revealed a secret that Zara had hoped to keep buried forever. He told the villagers that Ayana and Talia were not ordinary children. They were the daughters of the river goddess. Years ago, in her desperation for a child, Zara had visited an herbalist and asked him to intercede with the goddess of the river. The goddess had granted Zara's wish, but with one condition. The children must never touch the waters of the river, or they would return to their true nature. There was no way to reverse the transformation. The villagers stood in silent awe, realizing that the twins, who had been both loved and feared, belonged to the river. But Zara refused to give up hope. Desperate to find a way to save at least one of her daughters, she went to the herbalist who had helped her so long ago, only to find that he had passed away years earlier. With no other options left, Zara was forced to make the hardest decision of her life. In a solemn ceremony by the river, the villagers, Zara and Lamine, bid farewell to Ayana and Talia. Zara wept openly as the river goddess claimed Ayana, making her part of the water. However, in an unexpected act of mercy, the goddess allowed Talia to return to the land, restoring her human form. Zara held Talia tightly by the riverbank, her heart a blend of joy and sorrow. She had lost one daughter to the river, but the goddess had granted her the grace to keep the other. Talia and Zara looked into the river, forever feeling a connection to the sister who had returned to her rightful place in the water. The villagers, once divided between love and fear, now saw the twins' story as a lesson in trust, acceptance, and the mysteries of fate. For Zara and Talia, each day became a precious reminder of life's fragile beauty, and the river's gentle flow served as a lasting reminder of Ayana's presence. And so, from that day forward, the village held a deep reverence for the river and the secrets it held within its depths, honoring the goddess who had given and taken away, teaching them all a lesson in love and letting go. The Tale of Ayana and Talia, Part 2. In the days following Ayana's return to the river, a quiet sadness blanketed the village. People who had once been filled with both admiration and fear for the twins now saw them with newfound reverence. Stories spread of how Ayana had been taken by the river goddess and transformed into one of the river's own, leaving Talia and her mother Zara to mourn her absence while honouring her memory. For Talia, life was never the same again. Losing her sister felt like losing half of herself, as they had been inseparable from birth. Zara too was a changed woman. Every morning she would sit by the river, eyes fixed on the gently moving water, as if waiting for a glimpse of Ayana or a sign that her spirit was nearby. The village's relationship with the river also transformed. Villagers approached the water with a mix of awe and caution, honouring it as a sacred space. Parents would tell their children stories of Ayana, the girl who became one with the river, and reminded them to treat the water with respect, lest they invoke the goddess's power, the goddess's favour. As time went on, Talia grew into a young woman. Though she missed her sister deeply, she also felt a strange connection to the river, almost as if Ayana was still with her. There were days when she would hear a faint whisper on the breeze or see a flicker of movement in the water, and she would feel comforted, believing it was Ayana reaching out from her watery world. One night, Zara had a dream that felt more like a vision. In the dream, Ayana appeared before her, her figure shimmering like water under moonlight. With a voice that seemed to echo from deep within the river, Ayana told Zara, "Do not be sad, mother. I am happy where I am, but I will always watch over you and Talia. The goddess has granted me the power to protect the village from harm." When Zara awoke, she shared her dream with the village elders, who took it as a sign that Ayana's spirit would watch over them. From that day forward, they believed that the river goddess, through Ayana, would safeguard their village. This belief brought a sense of peace to Zara and Talia, as they came to accept that Ayana's transformation was not a loss, but a powerful rebirth. The year of the drought seasons passed, and the village continued to thrive. But one year, an unexpected drought struck. The sun grew hotter than ever before, the rain ceased to fall, and the fields turned dry and brittle. Rivers across the region dwindled, but strangely, the river near their village continued to flow, its water steady and clear. Villagers from neighbouring lands noticed this phenomenon and journeyed to the village to fetch water. Talia and Zara saw this as Ayana's blessing, believing that the river goddess was honouring the village's faith and Ayana's spirit. The village leaders held a ceremony by the river to give thanks, bringing offerings of fruit, flowers, and woven cloth as gifts for the goddess and in remembrance of Ayana. As drought tightened its grip across the region, more and more people arrived to take water from the river. At first, the villagers were welcoming, eager to help those in need, but as the months wore on, the endless influx of strangers became overwhelming. Some visitors came with respect and gratitude, but others arrived demanding water, treating the river as if it were theirs to take. Tensions rose, and Zara and Talia began to worry that their sacred water source would be disrespected or drained. The water thieves. One evening, a group of men arrived under the cover of darkness. Unlike the others, they came not to seek help, but to claim the river's water for themselves. Armed with large containers and buckets, they filled them hastily, ignoring the villagers who pleaded for them to stop. As the men continued to scoop water greedily, Talia, who had been watching from the shadows, stepped forward. Her heart raced with anger and desperation as she tried to stop them. But they brushed her aside, laughing at her pleas. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed from the depths of the river. A soft, haunting melody, like a song carried by the water itself. The men paused, momentarily transfixed, as the water around them began to ripple and shift. Before their eyes, the river seemed to come alive, and from its depths emerged a shimmering, translucent figure. Ayana, her form woven from water and moonlight. The men staggered back, fear flashing in their eyes as Ayana's voice filled the air. It was both gentle and powerful, with an undercurrent of authority that demanded respect. "Leave this place," she commanded. "This river is sacred, a gift to those who honor it. You come with greed, but you will leave with nothing." One of the men, attempting to regain his courage, muttered something under his breath and reached for his container. But as his fingers touched the water, a sharp, icy chill spread up his arm, freezing him in place. The others, seeing this, abandoned their containers and fled into the night, leaving the man to stumble back, shaking with terror. Word spread quickly of what had happened, and the story of Ayana's appearance became legend among the villagers. They believed more than ever that Ayana was watching over them, a guardian of the river who would protect them from those who sought to abuse its gifts. A lasting legacy. As the drought continued, the villagers became more protective of their river. They set up boundaries, creating paths that directed strangers to approach respectfully, with the understanding that this was sacred water. Those who came with reverence were allowed to take what they needed, but those who showed greed or disrespect were turned away. Talia took on a role as the river's caretaker, a protector of the water's sanctity. She would spend hours each day by the riverbank, quietly watching over it, listening to the gentle flow and sometimes, just sometimes, feeling the presence of her sister beside her. Zara, too, found peace in knowing that Ayana's spirit remained near. She visited the river every morning, bringing small offerings of flowers and singing songs she had once sung to Ayana and Talia as children. It was her way of honoring Ayana and expressing her gratitude for the gift the river goddess had given her. As the seasons passed, the drought finally broke and rains returned to the land. The river swelled with new life, its waters flowing stronger and purer than ever before. The villagers celebrated with a great feast, giving thanks to Ayana and the river goddess for protecting them through such a difficult time. A new generation years turned into decades, and Talia eventually became a mother herself. She would tell her children and grandchildren the story of Ayana, the sister who became part of the river. She shared with them the lessons she had learned, that respect for the natural world and gratitude for its gifts were more valuable than any possession. The children would sit by the river's edge, listening intently as Talia described the night Ayana appeared to defend the river. They would gaze into the water, hoping to catch a glimpse of her spirit, wondering if the gentle ripples and soft light were her way of watching over them. Over time, the story of Ayana became woven into the fabric of the village's culture. The villagers passed it down through generations, and Ayana's memory lived on, not as a loss, but as a symbol of resilience, protection, and love. The river's promise. One evening, as Talia sat by the river, her hair now silver with age, she closed her eyes and listened to the gentle sounds of the water. For a brief, fleeting moment, she felt a warm presence beside her, and she knew deep in her heart that Ayana was still with her. With a smile, Talia whispered to the river, "Thank you, sister, for all that you have given us." And as the river flowed on, its waters carrying her words into the endless depths, the spirit of Ayana remained, forever a part of the land, forever watching over those she loved. The river, bound by the promise of the goddess, would forever nurture, protect, and remind the village of the blessing it had received. In time, the river became known not only for its beauty and bounty, but for the legend of Ayana, the girl who had transformed and become the village's guardian spirit. Her story lived on, not just as a tale of loss, but as a powerful testament to the bond between family, faith, and the timeless flow of nature itself. Thank you for joining us on the journey of Ayana and Talia, a tale of family, faith, and the powerful bond between nature and spirit. Share this video with friends and family, and let's keep these beautiful stories alive together.